During World War II, when resources were scarce and bombings left homes and workshops vulnerable to fire, ordinary people had to rely on ingenuity rather than materials. One of the most remarkable yet forgotten innovations to come from that period was a simple homemade fireproofing paste, made from nothing more than flour, salt and water. It was used on wood, fabric and even paper to slow down burning, giving families a fighting chance against accidental fires and incendiary sparks. What made this paste special wasn't just its simplicity, but how effective it was at insulating surfaces from flames. People discovered that ordinary kitchen staples could resist fire when combined correctly. When supplies like asbestos, fire-retardant paints and chemical coatings were redirected to military use, civilians needed something practical to protect their homes. The discovery came from a blend of necessity and experimentation. Bakers, homemakers and engineers realized that the same ingredients used to make glue and dough could actually prevent materials from igniting. Flour and salt both contain elements that behave uniquely under heat. Flour's starches swell and form a thick carbonized crust when burned, while salt releases moisture and forms a barrier that chokes out oxygen. When the two are mixed with water and applied to wood or cloth, they form a paste that stiffens as it dries, then chars slowly under heat rather than bursting into flame. The key was in the ratio and application method. The most common formula, found in wartime survival manuals and home safety pamphlets, was 2 parts flour, 1 part salt, and 3 parts water, stirred into a smooth paste over gentle heat until thick. When brushed onto wooden boards, canvas or paper, and left to dry completely, the result was a coating that darkened rather than ignited when exposed to open flame. The method of preparation determined how long the protection lasted. Making this fireproof paste correctly required more than just mixing ingredients. The flour had to be cooked first. In a medium pot, 2 cups of water were heated until warm, then a cup of flour was whisked in slowly to prevent clumping. Once thick, a half cup of salt was added and stirred continuously until the mixture turned into a smooth, glossy paste. This was left to cool before application. The salt. It wasn't just about adding a bit of fire resistance, you see, but it also stopped the mixture from moulding while in storage. Now, some homemakers, if they could get their hands on it, added a spoonful of borax to boost the flame retardant properties. But honestly, the original recipe relied purely on salt and starch. Once it cooled down, the paste was applied in a thin layer and left to dry for at least a day. Then it was reapplied for better protection. You know, each coating added a touch more resistance, much like layering varnish or paint. The magic of this flour-salt paste was in creating a charring barrier rather than outright preventing heat. What made this old recipe so effective wasn't that it stopped fire entirely. No organic material can, really, but it changed how burning behaved. Normally untreated wood and fabric ignite rapidly when oxygen meets their dry fibres. But the flour-salt coating disrupted that process in 2 clever ways. First, when exposed to heat, the starch molecules in the flour would expand and gelatinize, forming a dense carbon layer that cut off oxygen to the underlying material. This slowed the burn drastically. Second, as the salt heated up, it released moisture trapped inside, cooling the surface and adding a steam barrier. The result? A delayed ignition and a surface that blackens instead of bursting into flames. This principle is still very much alive in modern flame-retardant coatings today. Many of these use starches, borates, or sodium compounds as the active fire inhibitors. In other words, this wartime discovery was an early eco-friendly form of what scientists later refined into commercial fireproofing products. So, let's talk about practical modern uses for the flour salt fireproofing paste. For today's homesteaders, gardeners, and DIY builders, this old technique has real applications. If you build small outdoor structures, compost bins, tool sheds, or raised beds near fire-prone areas, applying a flour salt coating can provide an added layer of safety. You just mix 1 cup of flour, half a cup of salt, and 1½ cups of water, cook it into a paste, and brush it onto wooden panels before painting or sealing. Once dry, it can be sanded lightly or painted over with milk paint or linseed oil-based finishes. For garden fabrics, such as burlap or canvas used for shading or wrapping trunks, soaking them in a diluted version of this paste, say 1 part paste to 3 parts water, and letting them dry thoroughly will make them much less likely to catch fire from nearby sparks or burning debris. Some modern permaculturists even use it to treat straw bale walls before plastering, as it helps reduce the risk of ignition during the construction phase. It's also an excellent teaching tool. Understanding how this mixture works helps gardeners and off-grid enthusiasts grasp the fundamentals of thermal insulation and chemical behavior in natural materials. It's simple chemistry applied to everyday life. A perfect reminder that solutions don't always come in fancy packaging. The value of rediscovering this wartime technique lies in its simplicity and sustainability. What stands out about the flour and salt fireproof paste is that it's entirely biodegradable, non-toxic, and made from renewable resources. In a world that's constantly looking for greener alternatives to harsh chemicals, this forgotten formula offers both safety and sustainability. It shows that effective fire resistance doesn't require industrial additives, just an understanding of how natural compounds behave under stress. More importantly, it captures the resourcefulness of those who lived through hardship. They found safety and strength in simplicity. By reintroducing this knowledge to modern homesteads and workshops, we preserve not just a practical skill, but also a Closing thoughts. The wartime fireproofing paste, made from flour and salt, isn't just a historical curiosity. It's a proven, practical formula with real-world applications. Whether you're treating wood for a garden shed, reinforcing cloth for outdoor use, or simply interested in sustainable materials, this mixture is a valuable addition to your toolkit. If you found this guide helpful and want more hands-on, field-tested techniques that connect old-world wisdom with modern homesteading, make sure to subscribe to Hydro Haven and share this video with other gardeners and builders. The more we bring back these lost methods, the more resilient and self-sufficient our communities become.